Welcome friends, this time we'll be looking up Krawlers, a deck debuting in Circuit Break, a insect archetype. They're all earths as well and they all float. This deck's all about floaty and flippy while flip summoning. It's an interesting deck as it's a insect deck first of all, that we've not had a proper insect deck in a while, and it is one of the ones that we have, and it's quite interesting. It's in the same story as World Chalice because it has a World Legacy card, which is the, you can see on the hand there on the left, it's actually the fist. It's like coming from the ground, and they all look quite interesting, similar to like StarCraft Zerg monsters. I don't know, they look kind of weird. They look like machines honestly, but they are insect monsters. So we're testing out a couple of games in Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro. This time we're playing against zombies. So speed up a bit on the zombie turn. They go for the play with the Necrophase. Okay, so this Necrophase variant, interesting. Now that Krawler is, I don't know what the name is, I can't remember, they all look very similar. This one is the one that specs from hand or grave, so we spec one from the hand, so it's pretty good because we open a bunch of monsters, too many monsters in fact. And this one is the one that looks like a Terminator, and it will pop a monster. But they're gonna lost win it because we spec it from hand. But the nice thing about this fist is if a card is flip summoned from any side of the field, you spec it from hand, and when spec summoned, or normal summoned in fact, you search your deck for a a Star Relic card, which is interesting because this deck relies on a bunch of Star Relic cards. Same with the Terraforming, we're going to search the Field Spell, which is also a World Legacy card. So slow it down a bit. Then we summon the Subterror monster. This card is better in flip decks. It's way better in this deck because it dumps a flip monster and you spec a monster from the deck, from your hand, sorry, with a similar similar type, and that's really good if you open it because it lets you swarm the field and specs it in face down defense as well. And it's pretty big, it's 2k, bigger than most of the Krawler monsters, Link monsters. Sadly we give them a lost win there, but it's fine. You get to dump one from the deck and then spec one from hand in face down. And Krawlers, they are flip monsters as I said. They all have interesting effects. One of them pops monsters, one of them pops back row, one of them recycles from grave, one of them dumps from deck. Any monster as well, so we can take a bunch of random cards. Like this time I think I've taken some Global. And what's the other one? Specs from hand and grave, I think. Yeah, that's the one. Alright, so we have 4 monsters immediately on the field. For a flip deck, that's pretty good. We also have the trap card set up, which is quite important. Very similar to Sinister Shadow games. It lets us flip a monster face down to face up. So on your opponent's turn, it lets you do it, and it's continuous, so you can keep on using that card repeatedly. Funny thing in there is actually Bujinki Amaterasu. It lets them recycle banished cards. That lets them kill the fist, okay, and Lost Wind's going to eliminate our Subterror monster. She's done her job, she's done quite well. So end phase we're going to flip a monster and then trigger this guy's effect. This one is Ranvier. That sounds French. It lets us recycle 2 monsters from the graveyard. So mid game this is very important because it lets you recycle resources, very crucial, especially at the field spell, so it lets you spec from the hand as well. Now this one dumps from the deck, so we're going to dump one from the deck and recycle a card from the grave using a trap card. This is the second effect of the trap card. It lets us recycle a card and then flip a monster face down. So in the same turn, you're probably going to flip the thing that you flipped using the card in the previous turn. So this one's going to recycle 2 more cards, so we're just going to plus a bunch of times during that turn, which is quite nice. And this is the field spell. Let's spec from the hand. Spec in face up or face down. So this time we do it face up, so we can link summon, because you can't link summon face down, so obviously. So we make the first Krawler link monster. This one boosts monsters on the field by 300, I believe. Blanket boost. So if you have a bunch of them, you can use boost everything. And all the link monsters' interesting effect is they all float. So what we're gonna do here, they pop the trap card, which is sad. What we're going to do here is we're going to crash against the Amaterasu, right? So they're both going to die, and then this one floats. I forgot the name of it, I can't read the Japanese on that. This one floats into 2 monsters in the grave, in face down, which is even better because it's a flip deck, right? And I think the one on the left lets you dump, it pops back row, so we're going to eliminate Zombie World in a bit. So there, we have 4 monsters now, so they all float. All the link monsters. Fortunately here we got the Compulsory for the Decode Talker, but they're gonna do the uni-zombie thing, as what zombies do. Make Omega, but then they have Shirayuki in the graveyard, Fairy Tale Snow, which is quite good in this deck because it lets you banish like the Shiranuis, which trigger effects when they're banished. Right, so Krawler is gonna pop the Omega to bait it out, so we can push in for some damage during this turn. This one's going to pop Zombie Wild so we can get rid of it. And there we go. Mrs. Radiant, 2 Earth monsters, bang. Because we are all Earth, because it's Crawlers, they're all Earth. I don't know why they're all Earth, honestly. Right, so we got 2 cards from the grave back, and they're going to use Shirayuki to Book of Moon, a Crawler monster. Oh, that's not a good idea because they are all flip monsters, so we're going to trigger this guy's effect again, I believe is what happens. There we go, dump a free card of Maxx C. Pretty funny, because it's an Earth monster, it's an Earth insect monster, level 2 as well, so it's basically a Crawler. So we make this other Link monster, which is another Crawler. There's 3 of them, I believe, in Circuit Breaker, unless if I'm wrong. It protects the cards it points to, and it gives them more damage, and it gives them additional effect. One is double damage, and one is double attacking. That's pretty good. Necrophacy is going to reset the game, casually. So it goes up to like 5200, that's pretty hench. That's gonna be annoying, but we get the Maxx C for free because of Mrs. Radiant, so that's really important. Especially for this turn, because they use Mizuki to bring back Unizombie, we're just going to Maxx C that. So that's the work of one of the Crawler monsters, because as you saw earlier, we dumped it from the deck, and then with Mrs. Radiant we got it back from the graveyard. We're not supposed to get that back, but they let us flip again, so they went for the 2 Omega plays here. Now the interesting thing is, they're on 3750 life points, so the Omegas, they're keeping it on the field because like they're going to die anyway, but the weird thing is they didn't tag out the one in the middle, which we just destroyed it. Now the guy's gonna dump a global, make a Link monster. So we're gonna push through a lot of damage here because we just inspect it from hand. Normal summon this one. As you see there, the Crawler monster that's originally a 1300 attack monster goes to 2200. So with the field spell, with the 2 Crawler Link monsters, they get hench AF. Run over the Omega. They didn't tag out the Omega because we are going to do a lot of damage. So I didn't really know what they already did, but then they protected it by battle, I believe. Right, so it's their turn. They're going to go for the Mizuki play once again. And the Unizombie play. Well, we're just going to decide to break through Skillet so they can't make another Omega. And Omega's going to recycle Terraforming randomly. And Black Crow is going to the field. That's pretty good, but it will not work that well against Crawlers because we have 2 Link monsters on the field, which brings back 2 from the graveyard. Unfortunately, not enough targets this time for the other monster that got destroyed. You can't bring back Link monsters, that's the sad thing about it, because you have to spec it in face down. So Link monsters, they can't go to defense mode. Funny Cowboy here, don't know why. And I'm just going to try to get rid of their field. Pop the back row, pop the Storming Mirror Force, we didn't know it was that one, but we're going to keep on doing stuff here. Bring the Crawlers back, grab our monster. Use the global we send from the grave. We can make a Nat Beast there, but we need to run over Cowboy and attack for game. Right, on to the next game. We are up against, I believe it's a Spiral Phantasm this time. Going first, quite lucky, and we open the eyes. Speed up a little bit, and then we got the field spell, so it lets us put 2 monsters on the field. Pretty good. Now we have 2 Crawler monsters set, which is quite nice because we have the trap card to counteract whatever they do. So this time we're going to pop the field spell, which is quite good because that deck relies so much on that field spell. And they use Raigeki, very bad idea against Crawlers, because if you destroy a Crawler by card effect, spec 2 from the deck. I think I only triggered 1, don't know why. I think it's because there's not enough targets in the deck. Yeah, because Pot of Desires was used, I believe that's what happened. Now we're going to use this card's effect to spec from grave, spec the one that's the same guy that pops a monster, but then the field spell, you saw it triggering there, it destroyed the monster. So field spell, what it does is, other than special summoning from hand, if a Crawler monster is destroyed by battle by your opponent's card effect, you send that card to the grave. So it's very good, similar to the Magnet Warrior field spell, but instead of bouncing it destroys it, or sends it to the grave, doesn't target anything. And they have Cardomized set, because Compulsory in hand, they scooped. Alright, this last game is against Rockets, or Bullets, or whatever you call them. They are also a deck debuting in, they also run Gopher, they're debuting in Secret Break, and we have Maxx C to counteract the Gopher, fortunately. They're all Dark Dragons. I rate Bullet's probably the worst one, no offense to all Bullet players. Bullet's probably the worst one debuting in Circuit Break, but they are getting more support later on, so they could probably get better in the future compared to the other decks debuting in Circuit Break. But they are probably the worst deck out of the 4 that debuted in that set in Circuit Break. I'll rate them the lowest tier in Scrub League, for example. So we're gonna go use the trap card once again to control the field. Pop this guy. So we have two guys here. We can maybe yeah. Let's just float into this guy. So this one floats. So we made it. This is probably the first one you make. The first crawler monster you probably make. So it's gonna do some bullet plays here, some rocket plays. Spec from hand. Link 4 into Borreload Dragon. I rate this card as it's quite a good card because of its first and second effect. It makes something lose attack, and the second effect just takes the monster into a link zone it's pointing to. Unfortunately, here we have the monster that pops back row, and then we pop CIBR's Universe or whatever it's called, which removes all monsters in the extra deck monster zone. So bye bye the two monsters, and they got scooped. Because that guy's gonna float, and they lost their Borreload Dragon, which they committed to. So yeah, that's it for this the replays. So that is it. Here is the deck that I'm currently working on, but it's a work in progress. But it works and it's pretty good. We run two of the Fist, the Star Relic. I recommend running this card. It's actually pretty good in this deck. It's probably only good in this deck, and maybe I don't think it's good in World Legacy. Sorry, World Chalice. I keep calling it World Legacy, but this is the one of the World Legacy cards we run. We call Dendrite 3 of this one because this is the one that's the biggest one and also dumps from the deck, so it sets up your crawlers engraved so you have more targets to float into. That's the main reason why it's quite good. 2 of this one, think of running 3 of this. It's also pretty big. It's 1/1 attack, so it's the second biggest one, and more importantly it's the one that recycles, although for most games you probably only want to loop one of them. They are all hard ones per turn, I believe. It's still a pretty good card. They all have decent effects. This one's the good one to start with if you open a bunch of monsters, because it lets you spec from a hand or grave a monster if it's flip summoned. So if this dies, you spell another monster basically. Keep in mind they all have the effects to float if you kill them. It's just spec 2 from the deck in face down defense position. And this one is the one that pops back road. Then this one is the one that pops monsters. Funnily enough, this one has the biggest defense, so I believe the field spell and stuff also boost defense, and a bunch of other crawler effects boost defense, so this can get up to like 3k plus defense if you really want to, but you're probably going to put the monster that attacks anyway. So one Maxx C, funnily enough, Maxx C is also a level 2 insect earth monster, so if you have a dead draw of Maxx C, this is probably the best deck to have it on, because you can still normal summon it and just use it as a material. Global to dump with the this dude, so you have a material in the graveyard, and also for making Naturia Beast. 2 desires because I run 40, Raigeki, Mind Control because it's a generic link deck, so you can make Decode Talker using their link monster or something like that, or even Borreload Dragon. Wormbait, this tech is kind of meh when from testing because you have to have a face up insect, so it's only really good like when you've already have a normal summon monster, which you don't want to do in this deck most of the time, turn 1, because you want to set. So I'm not sure about this card. It's a decent tech. It just specs 2 tokens straight up, but it doesn't restrict you that much in this deck at all, because it restricts you to a level 3 or level 4 monsters for the turn you activate this card. So everything is less than level 3 or 4 except this one, which you don't really normal summon that often because it's level 7. 2 Terraforming, such a field spell. Field spell is quite important. And Book of Moon, because you can just reset your flip effects if you want to, and it also stops your opponent. 2 Scapegoat, this just lets you turbo into link monsters, just in case if you don't have that many cards, because you usually set 1 monster, set 1 back row, which is probably going to Scapegoat, and the next turn you can go off. So field spell, really good field spell, lets you spec from hand, face down or face up as well, so 300 attack and defense boost, pretty good, because a lot of them are quite small in terms of attack power, defense power, one way or the other. Breakthrough skill, just to stop Dweller, because Dweller is quite good against this deck. Abyss Dweller just stops graveyard effects, so you don't want to play against Dweller against this deck, because they all have floaty effects. Compulse, just to outstuff generic traps. Solemn Brigade, only run 2 strikes, because we run Breakthrough. And the most important card probably in the decks, World Legacy Puppets. Puppets of the World Legacy, don't know if they translate to something else now in TCG. This one just lets you flip a face down, 1 face up, and another nice thing is it lets you flip a face up, 1 face down, and it lets you recycle cards from the deck to the graveyard. So you shuffle 1 crawler monster from your graveyard into the deck, and then you just do the other thing. But it's a cost to send it to the graveyard, so I don't know if you can do it with link monsters. I don't think you can, I'm not sure. You can also search these 2, the field spell and this card, using the Fist. So that's it for the main deck. Let's go to extra recommend. And Naturia Beast is just a tech you can run because we run global, because they're all earth monsters except this guy, and they're all level 2. This one's level 1, so you make it with these with three monsters basically. And I don't think you can go into it turn 1 easily, but turn 2 or something you can probably just lock your opponent down. The only rank 2 we can run a bunch of other rank 2s like Sky Cavalry, Dagosto Phoenix for OTKs, but we run Phantom's Curse Javelin because it just lets you target stuff and make something 0 and run over big monsters, because this deck struggles against big monsters. Borreload Dragon, very good card. Lets you take the monster and stuff, so it's just generic link monsters. Ningirsu, you don't have to run Ningirsu, so I just like using it because it's a non-targeting removal. Link Spider, because it's crawlers, you can make a Link Spider. Because we run Wormbait, of course, okay, it works with Wormbait. I never actually made this with Wormbait, I just go straight up into like Mrs. Radiant, so that's why you can probably drop the Link Spider, I don't know. One Decode Talker, because a lot of people keep playing Gofu on this client, so every time I see Decode Talker, every time it gets someone, it usually involves Gofu. Qualiark, this is the one that points down, so this is the one that we make first usually. We run 2. I don't really know whether to go into this guy first most of the games, but you probably go into this if you have a lot of monsters in hand, and if you probably go into this if you want to have cards in grave already. So it's one way or the other. And these guys float, they keep in mind. This one doesn't. This one lets you spec one from hand by dumping a card, so it sets up your grave and it sets up your hand as well. And this one, these two basically do the same thing. Everything next to it is protected, but lets them attack twice, and this one lets them do piercing damage. Sorry, it doesn't piercing damage. It gives them double battle damage. Like I'm confused with the metal foe guy that does double piercing, but it just gives them double battle damage. I believe this one's better, but this one has a better attack by 100. It's not a big difference, but they both have the same effect to float, and they both point left and right. The other difference is this one makes them. This one's only makeable using insect monsters. This one's makeable using earth monsters. So generally, you'll probably make this guy more often. But Mrs. Radiant, another good one to start with if you haven't got a link monster yet, because they're all earth monsters. So you just make that guy, and if it dies, you get one from grave. I saw in one of the games we go into Maxx C from the graveyard, which we don't use in this card. So basically, you can search Maxx C in this deck. Sometimes it's quite weird. So yeah, that's about it. This Krawler deck. It's kind of experimental, but it works quite well. And it's fun to play. It's very grindy and stuff, so yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this deck profile. Any other recommendations, put it down section below in the comments. And yeah, thanks for watching. Bye bye.